Good morning. Good morning, y'all. How y'all doing? I ain't had my coffee. Look. Happy Sabbath, y'all. How y'all doing today? Hey, the day, what day? The 28th? Man, September just flew by, right? We in fall. Fall, y'all, this is my favorite season right here. Autumn and fall. I love autumn and fall, y'all. Hey, so today, I didn't even know I was going to do a lesson today. The Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, this morning, I was in my deep prayer as I usually do early in the mornings, and it just fell in my spirit to do this right here. Let me see. I wrote all my little notes down. Got a lot of notes here. So let me see where I'm going to start. All right, so I did a video. I wrote my number, notes, right? I did a video titled "No Holidays" several months ago, and in that video, I covered the origin of birthday celebrations and how their roots are pagan. And we as believers, we should not be celebrating birthdays. Um, in that same video, I also covered special days that we should keep and be celebrating. That these days are scripture based, and these days are as follow: Passover. You can find that in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 4 through 8. Unleavened bread, also in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 6. First fruits, Leviticus 23 and 10. Feast of Pentecost, Leviticus 23, verses 16. Feast of Trumpets, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 24. Day of Atonement, Leviticus chapter 16, verses 23 and verses 26 through 32. And last but certainly not least, Feast of Tabernacle, Leviticus 23, chapter 23, verse 24. And you can actually find online like the actual months and days these holidays or these days to be celebrated. I would go as far as to not so much use Google, I would YouTube, or I would either go like on TikTok and consult with, Hebrew Israelites, you know, and see that way. Because if you look on Google, and you might get kind of confused because you have the Jewish, not to be confused with Hebrew Israelites, and the days, even the months may vary. Okay? Um, but we as a people have forgoed keeping these days and have in turn adopted or chose to observe holidays, pagan holidays, which have been dressed up and rebranded as Christian or commercialized holidays. Okay. Um, always remember, keep this in your mind. Always remember that Satan is the father of lies. He's deceitful and he's downright manipulative. Okay, remember those right there. I like to shout out daughter of Zion, my Hebrew sister, Simple Chanel, for her insight on what to do with my Christmas decor. I actually was leading towards her convictions towards the matter. I just needed that confirmation. Um, I felt that giving the decor away, however that looked, Salvation Army or just to individuals, it will give the perception that although I'm denouncing the celebration of this day, I'm in some way, form, or fashion still in agreement, with the its customs, you know. So yeah, giving it away is gonna be a no for me. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I'm not keeping it. I'm not keeping it. It's not gonna be here in the house, but I'm not giving it to anyone either. So my only other option is to put it in this blue box and have them come pick it up on Monday. Trash. Uh, Let me see. The wrong way. Okay. A lot of us we just get along with the get along, you know, following suit as it pertains to celebrating a lot of these holidays, not knowing their origin or their roots. Okay, now here I'm listing several holidays and just giving you insight on its origin. So I started off with Columbus Day. I shouldn't even have to say anything else. How do you discover a land where there are already inhabitants? People are thriving, people, tribes are living here, and you just magically discovered this land that supposedly no one knew of and no one's here, when in fact people were actually here. Okay. Easter. Easter is an ancient pagan celebration of the spring onyx. Also, it praises the pagan goddess of fertility and spring, known as Orsta or Astra. Okay, it's pagan, guys. It's dressed up to make it look like we're celebrating the restoration, the burial, the Messiah, being raised on the third day, whatever. But its actual origin is pagan, and you're really celebrating the goddess of fertility. Okay, Satan is the father of lies. He's very deceitful and manipulative. Christmas. I got these notes in my phone. Christmas. Okay. So, hold on 1 second. Christmas. Okay. The origin of Christmas can be traced back to pagan celebration um, and Roman festivities that mark the winter solstice and the end of the harvest. Before Christianity, pagans celebrated the winter solstice, which marked the return of longer days and more sun. Roman festivals. The ancient Romans celebrated the unconquered sun of December 25th, which marked the return of longer days. They also celebrated Saturnalia, Saturnala, a festival where people feast and exchange gifts. Um, Hold 1 second, my phone is acting up. Okay. The church officially adopted Christmas as a celebration of the birth of Yahusha in the 4th century. The date of the 25th was chosen to appeal to non-Christian followers who uh, who didn't believe, but that day coincided with paganism, so they kind of it made them feel kind of okay to celebrate it, even though they wasn't really celebrating, you know, Christ, Yahusha. They were celebrating, keeping it in line with their pagan beliefs. Okay, so yeah, father of lies, deception, and manipulation. He got y'all, or had us, had me too, out here celebrating these pagan holidays, whatever, and dressing them up as if there's something else. Okay, um, Halloween. Let's see about that one. The origin of Halloween can be traced back to the ancient Celtic festival, or Samhain, Samhain, which was a pagan celebration of the harvest and the end of summer. The Celtics believes that on the night of Samhain, the boundaries between the living and the dead became blurred, and the spirits of the deceased returned to earth. Here are some of the ways that they celebrated: costumes to confuse the spirits and avoid being terrorized by demons, bonfires to guide souls seeking afterlife, dancing to keep evil spirits away, and divination or divination. I can't even read, to foretell the future. Um, Over time, Halloween has evolved from a pagan ritual. It's a ritual, a pagan ritual, into a day of parties, costumes, jack-o'-lanterns, and trick-or-treat, right? So you can't say that you don't celebrate Halloween or you're gonna denounce it, but you still buying candy to give out to kids at the door. You still in some way, form, or fashion in agreement with the customs of that day. Or you don't celebrate it, but you know on Thursday the kids at the school are having a Halloween party, and you don't want your child celebrating that. So you explain to your child the origin of it, this, that, and the third. And that might be a day that, you know what, my son or daughter's not gonna go to school on that day. I'm gonna take off work, they're gonna stay home with me, or they're gonna give grandma's, whatever. They don't go to school on that day. Okay. Thanksgiving. Now, out of all these holidays, right, before I even had my awakening, before any of this was one of the first holidays that I knew. I said I have no business celebrating. I mean, I this one here, it's been some years, this one here. So Thanksgiving is presented as a celebratory day between Indians, the Aborigines, and the Pilgrims, or I like to call them the colonizers. When in fact it's a day of remembrance, and it should be a day of mourning of the Americans, inhabitants, the natives of the land who were murdered, raped, made to be prisoners of war, exiled in their own land. But it's dressed up to be like a treaty between the Indians and the Pilgrims, the colonizers, and all that, when in fact that's not what it is. I remember in college, undergrad, I think, when I learned I'm about to say principal, President Andrew Jackson, and how he his part in the Tale of Tears, and getting rid of the Aborigines, the Indians, the inhabitants off of lands and different places, and even as far as to have when people of color, blacks, were integrated into the military, using those platoons and battalions to do such a task. When in fact, some of these same people were your own people or tribal people like you were. And then, in the army, I was in the army, and how we celebrate or commemorate the Buffalo Soldiers. And then when I learned what their mission was in the military, they were some of the groups that did this very thing. Got rid of, exiled, killed off, murdered Indians, people off these lands, and then you rape and take their women. Come on now. So while we are deciding on what costumes we're going to wear to the costume party next month or the end of this month, getting that Thanksgiving meal dinner ready, menu, and or deciding on how many Christmas trees we're going to put up this year, um, we need to do our due diligence on these holidays and their origins, and on our own convictions on the matter. No matter how they disguise these holidays to come off as being one thing, when we really know it's something else in its entirety. You know, a way to deceive us into coming into agreement with paganism. Wake up, O Israel. We've been tricked, hoodwinked, bamboozled by the adversary, by the enemies. Tricked into celebrating holidays which are in fact have pagan origin. Tricked into worshiping idols, Jesus, God, when those aren't even their real names. They were taken out, the King James Bible, and so forth. Prior to the King James Bible, you go to the Geneva Bible and the ones prior to that. These names were actually in there, the books as well. They took them out. They hid those books for a reason. They didn't just take them out just because they was taking up too much room in the book. Think about slavery and how they didn't want us to read. We started reading. We may would have found out the truth way back then. You know. As my mama used to say back in the day to me and my siblings, use the mind Yah gave you. She said, God, use the mind God gave you. She always said that to us. Use the mind Yah gave you. Wake up, Israel. Today, enjoy your Sabbath day. Have a great day. You know, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. All right. Be blessed.